With the First World War, we typically look at four main underlying causes that created those conditions that started the First World War. These are militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. The first of the four main causes looks at how militarism increased in the years leading up to the war. One element of this is an arms race, with the different great powers trying to one-up each other in terms of their military armaments. One example of this is the naval arms race. In 1889, with the signing of the Naval Defense Act, Great Britain adopted the two-power standard. This meant their navy had to be as strong as the next two powers combined. Were the other great powers going to take this lightly? Of course not. In 1897, German Admiral Alfred von Tirpitz, man, this really was the age of great beards, wasn't it? So in 1897, he wrote a memorandum where he stated, "For Germany, the most dangerous naval enemy at present time is England. It is also the enemy against which we must urgently require a certain measure of naval force as a political power factor. The military situation against England demands battleships in as great a number as possible." Right? So here we see Germany uncomfortable with the growing naval power of Britain and wanting to compete. And when you have more military, more armaments, more battleships, well, that'll lead to a more destructive war. And also in Germany, under Kaiser Wilhelm II, Germany's more imperialist ambitions required more growth in its military force, and the growing influence of military leaders. General Helmut von Moltke, at a German war conference in 1912, stated, "I believe a war is unavoidable, and the sooner the better. We ought to do more through the press to prepare the popularity of a war against Russia." Oh, and we can't talk about militarism without talking about the development of new, industrially developed weapons and munitions, like this, and this, and this. Once those are employed in combat, things get very dangerous very quickly. The second of the four main causes is the alliance system. The period before the First World War was characterized by a balance of power system known as the Concert of Europe that was established by the Congress of Vienna in 1815 after Napoleon. It resulted in a handful of great powers dominating Europe. This balance of power was first upset by the unification of Germany, and then through a defensive alliance known as the Dual Alliance between Germany and Austria, formed in 1879, that became the Triple Alliance when Italy joined in 1882. Now, alliances definitely have a major way of changing the balance of power. This led Britain, France, and Russia to have to try and figure something out. By 1907, these three powers formed the Triple Entente, which was actually a really big deal. Consider how much Britain and France had fought each other for centuries, most recently during Napoleon's attempt to conquer all of the continent of Europe. These were states that historically hated each other, or at best, kept their distance. And now, forming an alliance together showed just how worried they were of the growing power of Germany and the formation of the Triple Alliance. These alliances all shared a common idea. If one is attacked, the rest of the alliance members are pledged to defend it. With this, I'm sure you guys can see how one small skirmish could potentially lead to all-out war. But on the other hand, like even with militarism, wouldn't this also be a deterrent to war, knowing that if you go to war, all of a sudden you have to face all of those other alliance members? Third on the list of main causes is imperialism. It was said that the sun never set on the British Empire. Great Britain had colonies all over the world, and this was a massive source of British wealth. Now, Great Britain also didn't really want to share any of that sunlight. As we've already seen, the two-power standard in their naval policy was very much related to Britain wanting to make sure that they could protect their colonies. Germany, however, was late to the colonial game, having become a nation-state quite recently in 1871. Despite acquiring some African territory at the Berlin Conference in 1884-85, Germany still wanted more of a place in the sun and established an expansionist imperial policy known as Weltpolitik, or world policy. These colonial ambitions led to a few crises in the years leading up to the First World War. Two of these involved Morocco, with Germany challenging France's claims to Morocco. These were eventually settled without going to all-out war, but slightly increased the tension between these powers. While in hindsight, colonialism certainly created some of the major world issues we still face today. But if you're Germany at the time, don't you feel that you should get to play by the same rules as the other colonial powers? The final of the four main causes is nationalism. That belief that your nation, your people are number one, or that you want your nation to have sovereignty, a state to call your own. I'm sure you guys can see some connections to nationalism in the previous examples. Britain wanting the biggest, baddest navy, and Germany wanting their place in the sun. In France, nationalism played a role in some bad blood towards Germany. As the final step of German unification, German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck waged war on France, winning decisively in the Franco-Prussian War, declaring the German Empire at the Palace of Versailles and annexing the French territories of Alsace and Lorraine. This was humiliating in French eyes and started a path to revenge on Germany known as revanchism. But are all these feelings enough to put millions of lives on the line? The Austro-Hungarian Empire was feeling nationalism in a different way. They were the most multicultural and multi-ethnic state in the group. The Austro-Hungarians officially recognized 14 different languages in their empire. And some of these different ethnicities were starting to question whether it was best to remain under Austro-Hungarian rule. Throughout Europe, the drive for national sovereignty was growing, and nowhere was it felt more than in the region known as the Balkans. The nationalist movement in Serbia to unite the Balkans and split off from the Austro-Hungarian Empire was growing throughout the beginning of the 20th century, with numerous organizations citing this nationalist cause. One such organization was called Unification or Death, or more commonly, the Black Hand, whose member, Gavrilo Princip, pulled the trigger that killed the Archduke Franz Ferdinand and plunged Europe into war. It didn't matter that the Archduke was actually sympathetic to the Serbs and their nationalist cause. He was a symbol of colonial oppression, was murdered, and the die was cast. It's important to remember that before the First World War, Europe had been at peace for 100 years, something quite rare historically. According to historian Margaret Macmillan, that part of the century was not unlike our own, with increasing globalization and more connections in the great powers. Even among the leaders of these great powers in the years preceding the war, there was still a desire to maintain peace and avoid war. Even former Chancellor Otto von Bismarck, who led that drive for German unification, wrote later on in 1898, "It is in our interest to maintain peace. While without exception, our continental neighbors have wishes, either secret or officially avowed, which cannot be filled except by war. We must do our best to prevent war or limit it." War wasn't necessarily inevitable. So what went wrong? Which cause was most significant? Let us know in the comments below. And give this video a like if you learned something. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you again next time.